Everybody gets their beginning somewhere, and I got my beginning in IT with the support and guidance of a friend named Tran. Key has been in IT for as long as I've known him. Since we were both in college and studying, he was always the one to go to for IT or computer problems, and he has evolved his IT career all the way to the top, truly architecting some of the most amazing and complicated solutions that there are. So we've got a COVID-19 edition of Crawfish and Tech here. I've got my tray of crawfish that I'm going to be eating, and just going to set them down here in my lap. And we're going to set up a Google Hangout with Key and just talk to him as if we were here in person eating on crawfish. So let's get going. All right, I think everything is looking good here, so I'm going to jump in and we'll see if he's here. We'll allow the mic. Don't need to worry about the camera. Hey, what up, man?
Hey.
What's going on? I know you can't see me right now, but I've got a pot that I'm going to be putting my dead crawfish tails in. So I'm going to eat crawfish in my lap with this tray of crawfish and my Abita strawberry. What is that you're eating? That looks amazing.
I'm immediately jealous because crawfish is by far my favorite thing to eat ever. Yeah, I literally flew to Baton Rouge just to get crawfish. Anyway, this is asparagus wrapped in bacon that my mom whipped up. It's a pretty good snack. So I got an old fashioned right here.
Oh, yum. Some of my favorite things right there. Old fashioned. I have an Abita strawberry.
You can't beat it.
Yeah, you can't beat an Abita strawberry without. You can't beat an old fashioned. So yeah, the last time you were here, man, y'all did all this crawfish stuff, and my son was sick, so I was just exhausted, and I was not good company. And I wish I could make up for it, but because of coronavirus, I'm literally eating boiled crawfish in my lap. I've got a tray of crawfish that I'm holding up in front of the camera, and I'm just eating it, and it's going to be delightful.
I know. You should send it to me. Just take it and just mail it to me. Yeah.
We will find a way to make this happen.
Please, please.
So, for those of you who are watching, let me tell you, one of the main reasons that I am in tech is because of this guy. I was a SQL developer for a company that basically made software for banks. I was making reports, doing a lot of SQL code. But I got really jealous of people whose title ended with engineer. So, the first person that I reached out to was this guy whose title ends with engineer. And I asked him, I think the question that I asked you was, how do I build a home lab? Do you remember that?
I do. And I was super excited when you asked me that because it's probably one of the best things to do with a friend is to build a home lab together. And I think we got you hooked up with a Dell R710.
Yep. And it's still sitting right here, right next to me. And
solid machine.
I remember when I bought it, I was buying it off eBay, and you were like, dude, you need to message them and make sure you get the iDRAC Enterprise on it, because that makes a huge difference when you want to mount ISOs over a network.
Yep, and, you know, you're not always going to be at home, right? So,
yep.
And stuff's going to happen, because I remember whenever I first built my first home lab, which was, you know, just on a beefy AMD high core count, like desktop, basically. Well, one, that's not supported at all by VMware. So you might get a purple screen of death, and then you're stuck calling someone saying, hey, you know, honey, could you turn off my computer and turn it back on for me?
Been there.
But, yeah, exactly. But you get iDRAC Enterprise, and suddenly you can do it yourself. Yeah.
Yep. So, okay. So tell me about what is your job title? What is your career like? What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm currently a senior project engineer for, for Velo IT Group, and we are an MSP.
Okay. I think that right there needs like some defining. What is MSP?
Yeah, so an MSP is a managed service provider, and you'll hear there's tons of terms out there for, you know, IT services. There's VARs, there's MSPs, there's ITOs. Essentially, pretty much almost all the same thing. The only difference, mainly, I guess, is the type of services they try to focus on.
Okay.
And so in our space, particularly with Velo, we try to go for long-term strong relationship building with our customers, and we focus on managing all aspects of IT.
Okay.
So we're a full managed service.
So you're basically not outsourced, but like you are some company's IT department, the whole department.
Yeah, pretty much. I think there's always going to be certain clients that will have in-house IT as well, and then we're there just as a support, maybe consultant,
Okay.
kind of guide and help out. And then there are situations where we'll be the only IT resource for that organization.
So do you interface with multiple clients or just one client? Like, is it one client per IT person? How does that work?
It varies, right? So I came from NTT Data before I joined Velo. And NTT Data is considered an ITO where they handle all IT, but for major enterprises.
Okay.
And those accounts, they're so large that a lot of times you'll end up on a single account.
Okay.
Because you become a dedicated resource. But now with Velo, we're a team where everyone works on multiple accounts.
Okay. Cool. So if multiple people are working on multiple accounts, I could see a scenario where some businesses have different solutions or different products, and now you have to wear different hats. Like maybe some of these businesses implement Cisco, other businesses implement Meraki, other businesses implement Juniper, or even like Hyper-V versus VMware or AWS versus Azure. How do you balance needing to know so much?
No, that's a great question. No, that's a very good question. And you know what? Whenever you interview for an MSP, I think that's you end up meeting a lot of people throughout the process, and you'll find that they ask you a wide range of questions across all technology stacks. The beauty of it is they don't expect you to know it all, and it's because the truth is you're not going to know it all. The more important thing is I think, in my opinion at least, is how willing are you to ask for help? How willing are you to pursue learning that new technology? Because it's ultimately it's a skill, right? You can learn anything. That's my humble belief. If you put forth the effort, you can learn it. So in an environment where you're learning, different vendor, different technology stacks, you get to a point where you need a good team behind you. You can either try to do it yourself, or you have a great team behind you with great documentation, and then you can work through most of the issues. And of course, there's always Google.
Yeah. Certified professional Googler right here.
Oh yeah, no, that's the way to go. Google is your best friend.
So, take me through the journey of your IT career. Have you always been like consulting, or have you done?
No, so I went to LSU, and I think it was by my junior year at LSU, third year. I got an awesome hookup by my sister to go work at Lamar Advertising, which is a billboard company in Baton Rouge, as a help desk person. So interned there, did a bunch of help desk stuff, learned kind of corporate computing. From there, I ended up getting a role on campus as a sysadmin for like this super small. It was like a weird federal program thing. I don't know, but I don't know. It was a small sysadmin role. So I did the internship, the sysadmin role, and then I landed a part-time job at the federal courts. And I think this is where it completely changed my career for me. Granted, I was an intern through all this. So by the time I graduated, the courts ended up giving me a full-time job. But the most important thing was I found an awesome mentor. There was a person at the courts that really just kind of forced me to learn what he thought was going to be the next big thing in tech, and it happened to be VMware. So I started on VMware at version 4.0.
When was that? What year was that?
2010, I want to say, around that time.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, 2010. But and I remember, you know, I don't know. And one of the things I always tell is the guy that tell the guys that I end up talking to that want to aspire to, getting out of like help desk or anything else. You kind of just have to get out of that mindset of I think I can rig something, because that's just not the way to go. The more important thing is learning how things work, like how they really work. And that's what my mentor taught me, right? He said, I want you to sit here, take this course. It was actually CPT. And I want you to learn this. I need you to understand how everything interconnects. And then, I mean, it was just game over from there. I got hooked.
Yeah.
Once I actually felt like I knew it. And I was able to hold conversations with him about how everything connected, how everything worked. And then, yeah, I went down this massive path of just virtualization, and here we are.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. Are you still excited about virtualization or VMware in general?
Yeah. VMware has actually been doing crazy things in that space. Granted, I know cloud is a big thing right now, but yeah, no, VMware is still solid. Virtualization in general, that's just cool.
Yeah. Is that so? I guess since you've been really digging into the IT, really the engineering space since around 2010, we said. How have you seen I mean, that's 10 years. How have you seen things change in 10 years?
It's pretty drastic. So we went, because I think whenever I started in tech, people were starting to use virtualization. So you still had these fairly big data centers, full of racks. But then now, over time, as that technology kind of got more mature, you started seeing more consolidation. So racks started getting more dense, and there's less of them. And then virtual desktops became a big thing. What was actually one of the coolest projects I ever worked on was getting a federal court in Texas fully virtualized. It was all virtual servers, all virtual desktops.
Wow.
And I think we took it from 4 racks worth of equipment at one of our data centers down to like half a rack.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that's just neat. Yeah.
So you've architected some hell of solutions then.
Yeah. No. So whenever I moved, because I live in Texas now, so when I moved to Texas, I had, and it was hard leaving Louisiana. 1, Crawfish, amazing, right?
Yeah.
2, family, friends. It was hard to pivot away from that, but this was kind of a rare opportunity. So I want to say, sorry, it's my son. Anytime you get a chance to get the experience I got, you have to take it. So this court was still on Novell. They were not a Microsoft shop. They were mostly physical, and so they wanted a complete re-architecture. They wanted to modernize the entire infrastructure stack.
Wow.
Yeah, they were using I forgot what kind of network gear it was. It was some off-brand that no longer exists. But came in, brought in Cisco, brought in VMware, used NetApp for the back-end storage. And, that migration on my part was easy, because at that point, I was pretty solid with VMware. Microsoft, though, like I've never even heard of Novell. I was like, what is Novell? and then I quickly learned that if the government still uses it, it's probably pretty old. Turns out it's pretty old, but Novell is actually pretty solid. But anyway, yeah. So I got the chance to re-architect and actually design their Microsoft environment from the ground up, and that's just so rare these days, because most shops are already established. So
you'd say that's an interesting point too about job mobility. I think in economic terms, they call that frictional mobility. Your willingness to move to the job. From Louisiana to Texas, that's not a tremendous move geographically, but for some people that would be a tremendous move. I think that's interesting that you pointed out there that look just beyond the borders, or maybe beyond your comfort zone, to find the next big opportunity for you.
Yeah, no, that's a huge part. You're spot on. I think the cool thing about tech is that you can always fix it, right? And there's even in design. Part of my interview with for some of my jobs, one of the questions they asked me is, in like a couple of statements, give me your take on tech and why do you like it? Well, I like it because, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong answer. But if you're good, you can design a really, really good solution that is cost effective and gets the job done. So with that being said, definitely always step outside of your comfort zone, because that's when you realize you can conquer just about anything.
So I love that. And I think I'll circle back to that in a minute. I want to pivot one thing to, like, how has the cloud changed what you do? That's a really generic question.
It is, yeah, because so cloud is interesting, right? Cloud computing is actually super cool, in my opinion. I've taken AWS courses, I've taken Azure courses. There's also all those little tiny players out there where you can get, like, your little VPS. But anyway, so for my role, right, I'm a systems engineer. I do a lot with core infrastructure, and at the moment, even on the enterprise side, and more so for the SMB, a small business or mid-level businesses, you don't actually. I haven't seen that much cloud adoption in certain industries.
Yep.
And it's not because they don't want it. I think everyone does want it, but it's pretty cost prohibitive if you're running legacy applications. That's a core piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. If your applications aren't cloud ready or cloud native, it's kind of hard to just lift and ship, because that's when it gets crazy expensive. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think, in my experience, which may be a little bit different, it seems like the cloud is not about core infrastructure. Like, it doesn't seem like something you just spin up a file server in the cloud, which, a lot of people who are new to the cloud, that's their gut reaction, is like, oh, let's just take all the VMs that I have on premise and move them to the cloud and let them communicate over site to site. The cloud, something that I saw recently on Bart Castle's Twitter, was that the cloud is all about the actual workloads themselves, the apps, and abstracting as much of labor that you have to put into maintaining that as possible. Like, serverless is a real thing these days, because it's just going to run your website workloads.
Well,
and not fuss about it either.
You kind of hit on that. So I'm sure you heard of Lambda, which is, serverless compute. That's just cool tech, right? So, but you're spot on again, right? So cloud, like you said, it's really meant for people not to have to deal with infrastructure. I think at some point, developers kind of, it took a long time to get the stuff they needed, and so they're like, dude, this sucks. I wanna build stuff, and it's taking forever for me to have the platform to build it. And here comes cloud. You're right. And like what you said, organizations that look at cloud like, hey, I want to take my 200 VMs and just shove it in the cloud, and I want cost savings. That's never going to happen. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen at the moment, and that's because that model is not good for cloud. Cloud is meant to be modernized, so you need to you have to do app transformation for your apps to work in cloud the way it should be, and then it'll be cost effective and cool and scalable, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Resilient, scalable, globally distributed.
Yep.
All of those things. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. No, because one of my last projects before I left before I left NTT Data was looking at. I was working with our cloud team and with our customer to do cloud transformation. They wanted to put everything into Azure, but but they did not want to do transformation, and it was crazy expensive.
Oh man! So just lift and shift, and run a legacy. Nah.
Obviously, to put into perspective, I just to know the cost difference, I actually got with our Dell sales rep, pulled a refresh quote, and this is modernized hardware. So I was looking at moving them off of legacy three tier being, you know, you have separate storage, separate compute, separate network. Moving into an HCI, hyperconverged infrastructure. It was actually a Dell VxRail system. So solution that out for refreshing all of their racks, right? And the cloud cost was across 5 years 4 times more expensive. Yeah, and the thing too is, you know, most people may not necessarily consider this factor because they might not have to deal with the finance side in tech, but the other thing too is cloud puts you into an OpEx model, whereas when you buy infrastructure, you're putting yourself into a CapEx model. So depending on your organization's the way they structure their finances, that's pretty important. They literally might not be able to do cloud because it just screws up their finances.
Yeah, now it's a subscription model basically instead of we refresh our hardware every 5 years, so we budget for that.
Yep. 5 years plus. There's, you know, you can appreciate the asset. There's a bunch of decisions to be made around that.
Yep.
But yeah, but obviously you could do some clever billing too. Well,
okay. So let's wrap up, and I will ask you the $1 million question. How does someone get to where you are?
There you go. There's just no right or wrong answer. But in my opinion, start tinkering. You know, don't be scared to break things. You know, if you're really just getting started out and you've been looking at your computer, take it apart, look at it, understand how it works. If you're more interested in the software side of things, start trying to code. There's tons of resources. What's cool about the world today is, you know, with the internet the way it is you could pretty much do just about anything you want, except maybe surgery on yourself. You might even be able to do that if you find a good YouTube video. I don't recommend it. I do not recommend that.
Yes, HIPAA violation or something there.
Yeah, probably. But if you're on VPN, it might be okay. But more importantly, find someone in the space that you're interested in and talk to them. What's cool is, you know, I think most people in the field are pretty humble and they're willing to talk. Reach out to Knox, reach out to me. I mean, I would love to talk to anybody that's interested in this space and help them, you know, get on their way.
Yep. And so if you guys want to get at him, I'm going to put his contact info in the description below, so make sure you check that out. Cool. Man, I thought this has been a killer conversation. I have eaten a pot of crawfish here. This pot was empty when I started. Now it is almost full. The tray still has some crawfish left on it.
Yeah,
but I did a pretty good job eating them.
Just toss it in an envelope, mail it over.
I will make that happen. And those ram sticks I still owe you. So.
Oh, yeah. Nah, you're good, man.
So cool. We're going to wrap up here. I'll have a follow-up video coming up after this, so thanks for stopping by. All right. He's honestly one of the best in the biz. He really is. He is a true architect of real engineering solutions for enterprises of all sizes. So I hope you've enjoyed what we've had to say here today. Key really is a fantastic insight as to how you can learn about specific technologies or growing your IT career in general. So if you're interested in reaching out to him, check the description below and make sure you get in touch with him. Connect with him on LinkedIn or any other platforms that he's willing to share. All right. Thanks for stopping by, y'all. See you in the next one.